Hey.
How you doing?
Good. I'm
Good to
great.
see you. It's been
I'm
a
happy
while.
to see you. I know it's been forever. Here.
I know, because I never got to see you at NACAC.
Yeah. Are you cool with just,
Yeah.
you know?
Walking and talking?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we didn't get to visit.
I know. I heard you said nice things about the book, which I appreciate.
I do. I'm a big fan.
I saw you and Sarah a couple weeks ago on Facebook Live.
Oh, yeah.
I was on. Where was I coming from? I was
You've been
in
everywhere.
Indianapolis. I was in
Yeah.
Indianapolis, and I was watching you guys from there.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
So what happened? This is Evanston. Look,
I'm speaking here tonight.
this is tonight.
Yeah. You know, this is the largest high school in square footage in the U.S. under one roof.
Really?
Yeah, that's a little trivia.
Yeah,
for you,
I didn't even
right?
know that. And I'm from
And
here.
you're from here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
live
so
in
I've been here. I've been up in Lake Forest. I was up at Lakeshore Country Day today and at Northwestern. So it's a couple of
All
great
today?
all the last 2 days.
It's amazing.
Yeah, last 2 days.
This man,
Yeah.
he's everywhere. So I was telling people, not
Yeah.
that I don't know anybody, no one's there right now,
Right.
but I was explaining that you have been everywhere. And I mean, so here's the thing. So first of all, I'm excited just to hang out with you. And because I don't really know you. I mean, I know your work and I know just your reporting and I really have a lot of respect for what you do and how you do it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, the fact that I can get an hour with you because I know you're like back to back to back to back, and how you feeling? Are you like? Do you have a lot of energy? Do you get exhausted from this?
No, I feel like we're starting a movement here around college and thinking that there are great places beyond the top 25, top 50 places.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing a lot of heads nodding yes.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I get energy from the audience, from parents, students. I just spent some time with some seniors here at ETHS, and it's great.
What do they have to say?
We talked a lot about AI and the use of AI in applications,
Right.
AI at colleges and universities, but also AI in the job market, and how are they thinking differently about their majors, and are they thinking differently about their majors?
Right.
Now they're not, but I've been speaking to a lot of college seniors who are wondering what they've just done for the last 4 years is really going to make it in this job market.
It's a big thing.
Yeah.
It's a big issue. I'm working on a book right now.
Okay.
It's college to career, and working on, in the same style that I do my Naked Roommate book.
Yep.
So, collecting those stories and driving that, and part of the conversation is what I want to have with you is also your thoughts on career, and if it's something where I can use it. What I'm trying to do, well, actually I'm trying. So what I'm doing is I am having conversations with people who, hopefully as part of the podcast, I can pull some of these quotes, and then what I'm going to do, and I talk about it while I'm doing this too, because I just talked to Michael Itzkowitz, who I know.
I used them for the book.
I saw that. I was like, because everyone. Like seriously,
great.
I don't think there's a person in higher ed
I'm sure
that you don't know.
There's somebody.
No, I think you do. I actually planned our route.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
You know this better than I do.
Well, I drove it because I didn't want to.
Move locations on you. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay because I wanted to walk one direction for 25 minutes.
Okay.
And then come back.
Okay.
Because I think it'd be easy.
Yeah, perfect.
And then, do you mind walking?
Yeah. No, it's
you
great.
You like being outside.
Yeah, there I am, right there. See.
Oh,
you just
geez.
missed it. Sorry.
No, we'll see it again.
Sorry, they changed it.
I don't see the thing is I didn't believe them. So if it's not there, it is fun.
Well, now you have to go through like 5 different things.
I know. And if you need to check whatever you need to do, this is also casual.
Together. First.
Oh, that's good. I'll get this in
I
here.
always wondered how you do this. See that? Like the Osmo, it's a great camera.
This thing's great, and I got the extra mic.
Okay.
And it follows us.
Yep.
And I think it's gonna work.
Okay.
And the thing is, I hate sitting.
Yep.
I like being active, and I just think it's just such a more interesting way to have a conversation, especially here. So for those of you who aren't familiar, this is Evanston, Northwestern University. If I were to take this camera and throw it as hard as I could, like this, if I were to go there, if I were to throw this, it would be over there. We're walking east, and Lake Michigan lines Evanston and also Northwestern. So we are, this is like due east. And then downtown Evanston's about a mile that way. So I was thinking maybe if you wanted to go to your hotel, I could drop you off there and walk, but you're going back.
No, I'm going back.
So the continuation of high school to college to career, that's something that I'm really focused on. And it connects to this idea of success, of how do you define success. And also it's tied into ROI, and it's tied into so many of the concepts that you cover in the book. And just, we'll talk somewhat about the book. Your conversation with Frank Bruni, with Grown and Flown, was a great talk. Love that one. What are some other talks about the book that you think are really great ones? I'll link to it in the show notes. So, are there any that come to mind?
Well, I did a fun one with NPR, with Michelle Martin at NPR. A great one with Michael Smerconish at CNN. He's great.
It's so funny. My dad loves him.
Okay.
And he said, I saw someone, talking about college. And I was like, I think that was Jeff.
Yeah.
And I always get a little bit excited when my dad, sees people. And then I get to be like, I'm going to talk to Jeff. But he thought you were really good and thought that you did a great job communicating the information. So he was like, that guy's really good.
Yeah, so those are some of the reviews that I did that I think turned out pretty well.
Okay.
And then I've done mostly private community events.
Okay.
Some of which have not been recorded.
Right.
Live events. I like doing live events.
Right.
Often. Although most people now just like to sit at home and watch.
Yeah. So when you're doing the live Q&A conversations, and I'll get back to your life, because I want to understand more about you, because you're kind of a little bit of a mystery to me. You are. So, if we didn't have the camera, this is the same conversation I would have with you. But when you are having these conversations about Dream School, and if you were to share, like the 1 minute version of
Dream School.
What Dream School accomplishes.
So Dream School is really a follow-up to Who Gets In and Why, which was my 2020 book that I went inside the college admissions process at 3 universities and watched how they chose students. And as I went out and talked about that book, everybody kept asking me, what if we can't get into those places? What's a plan B for us? What if we don't want to go to those types of places, meaning top-ranked schools? Like, how do we make sense of the rest of higher ed? Because to most people, me and you know a lot about higher ed, but most people buy this product once, 2, twice, 3 times in their life.
Right.
They don't know much about it. And as a result, I wanted to give them a roadmap on how they can figure out higher education beyond the rankings. Because to them, when they look beyond the rankings, it's just thousands, hundreds of schools.
Right.
They don't know how to tell the difference between them, because every school will tell you, we give your kids hands-on learning. We care about you. We're going to get you a job. They all say the same thing. And I wanted to give parents and students a toolkit. I wanted to give them a roadmap to find the right fit for them.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And it's so effective. I've read a lot of books when it comes to higher ed and trying to frame what this decision-making process is. And I have, I would say, yours is the best one.
Well, thank you.
I mean, it really is fantastic. I think
coming from somebody who has written one of the best books.
Well, you do a wonderful job collecting data. Like, one thing I love about Jeff is he's a reporter. And you get data, and you gather that data. And I've worked with John Pryor.
Yep. Who also helped me on this book. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I saw in your thank yous, because I want to do stuff. We've talked about doing stuff, because John's just great. He was at UCLA, Higher Education Research Institute, and is just a wonderful human being, and is a data geek as well. So there's great, and then the NESI data, and all this data tells a really compelling story. And when it comes to you being able to process that data as not only a journalist, but as a parent, what surprised you the most, where you were like chuckling, or you were like a mad scientist and you're like, oh my gosh, I found this?
Well, the NESI data, you mentioned the NESI data. The NESI data has always been like a black box, a locked key.
Yeah.
So I got my start at U.S. News and World Report in 1994 as a summer intern. Worked with Al Sanoff there, who, bless his heart, was a mentor to me. He really helped me understand. He helped run the rankings. He helped me really understand higher education.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget one day we had lunch. I was working for the Chronicle of Higher Education by then, and it was around the corner from U.S. News, and we had lunch, and he was saying, you know what would really make the rankings? The NESE data. So National Survey of Student Engagement. Indiana University has been doing this for 20 plus years.
Right.
Hundreds of thousands of students fill out the survey every year, freshmen and seniors, basically about every experience they have on campus. It is a treasure trove of data, but the thing that's terrible about it, they do not release the results publicly.
Right.
So we can't find that out. And it would have been great for the rankings. He can never get them to do it.
Right.
So I thought of him a couple of years ago, and I said, I'm going to call them up and see what they'll offer.
Right.
And no, they wouldn't release it to me either, but here's the question I did ask them. I said, everybody thinks that highly ranked, highly selective colleges are better than everyone else. If you have a 20% acceptance rate, they think you're better than if you have a 60% acceptance rate. And I wanted to prove that wrong with the NESE data. And that's what we did. And that's where, when that data came back from NESE, where they basically compared schools that had a 0 to 20% acceptance rate to schools that had 20 to 40, 40 to 60, 60 to 80, and a data set that I gave them. When that came back to me, and I saw that there weren't big differences between those schools.
Yeah.
And in some cases, for example, faculty to student interaction was better
Yeah.
at the schools in the 20 to 40% ranking than, or in that core group
Yeah.
than in 0 to 20.
That part gives me chills. Like I took some, because I can't carry the book with me, and I share this when I do presentations now.
Right.
And here, I'll hold this because you can kind of see. I mean, I can include this, but this is the chart, and you couldn't use the exact names of the schools as
Right.
part of your arrangement with NESE.
No, right. My arrangement with NESE is like, I wanted to show that if you have a 0 to 20% acceptance rate, that those schools did better than everyone else, but they weren't statistically different.
Yeah.
In some cases, there was an overlap between them
Yeah.
and everyone else.
I think this figure 6.1 really sums up the book for me. I mean, I know there's so many aspects to it,
Yeah.
but if you have a bottom line of are elite schools going to provide more value, well, the only area where
Experiential learning.
is that experiential learning and the internship piece, and I think that
Where they do better.
they do better. They do better, and that's an important piece when it comes to employment.
Yeah, it is, but I think I have an explanation for why they do better.
Okay.
Largely at those schools, students come from families where, getting a job is important, and they have, a lot of those parents have social connections to help their kids get jobs. And so I think that, and there's like a lot of connections with those institutions and
Yeah.
their workforce. So I just think that they push it more often than they would at
Right.
selective institutions.
That makes a lot of sense. The social capital.
The social capital,
The,
financial capital.
And the financial capital, right? Because they know people, because a large number of these students are going in there, and their parents and their friends and their family, they can hook them up with internships. So that data could be skewed. It's a really interesting
what
part.
that shows me, what I show that chart
Yeah.
to college leaders
Right.
at less selective institutions, and I said, if you want to capture the institutions ahead of you, the colleges ahead of you, focus on this. This is the one area where you're not doing as well.
Right.
If you could figure out how to give an internship to every kid, get an experience, some sort of experience,
Right.
hands-on experience to every kid, it would close the gap, I believe,
Yeah.
between those colleges and everyone else.
So when it comes to success, I've been oh, that's so cool. Look at that. It's like a art beetle. Oh, there's like a beetle and there's a squirrel. It's so pretty.
A real squirrel.
Yeah. This is so.
The colors here are amazing right now.
Isn't this gorgeous? I don't know if you get to go for walks.
Unfortunately, not as often as I should. I walked up and down the northwestern campus yesterday.
Beautiful.
Beautiful, and
Yeah.
the colors right now are just great.
Yeah, it's really spectacular, and it's a beautiful time of year. So when you are approaching a book like this, because there's so many variables, and it's so hard, as someone who, I get overwhelmed at times. I don't know, do you ever get overwhelmed
All the time.
Because you strike me, I was like, how does Jeff not get, sorry. Thing is, when you have a camera and you get hit, there's evidence.
There's evidence.
Right. It's really, should always do is have a forehead cam. So, but when you're dealing with such a massive amount of data and something that has so many variables, because you're talking about the college scorecard and Michael Itzkowitz and the variables in terms of, I didn't recognize that the median incomes are based on students who have had some sort of federal aid, as opposed to
shortcomings of the federal data.
Yeah, because that can really, that's a pretty dramatic population. It's a big population of students.
Yep.
So when they're looking that over, that could be a little confusing. And I also talked to him about the 8-year graduation rate,
Yep.
because that also really doesn't inform someone who is budgeting for 4 years.
Yep.
But in terms of like working through the data in your process, just in terms of your executive functioning, like I want to learn from you. How do you do this?
Well, first of all, I have a great team of people.
Okay.
And so, Michael was very helpful. We came up with the idea. He really helped me think of this idea of the net price to earnings ratio.
Right.
That's in the book, and that's the basis for some of the schools that are in the back of the book. I worked with one of the smartest journalists and data people I know, Scott Smallwood, who was the former managing editor with me when I was the editor of
Right.
School of Higher Education. Runs co-founded a nonprofit called Open Campus, which
Right.
is trying to improve reporting on colleges and universities.
Want to try and make this light? Yeah.
So I'm just very lucky to be associated with people who have helped me where I am. I'm going to take a stop here and tie my shoe.
Yeah, in that situation, and you don't have to answer this question because I'm just trying to figure this out, because one of my shortcomings is I am not great at collaborating. Like I have been kind of living in a bit of a vacuum.
Yep.
And that's why we don't know each other well.
Yeah.
Because I've been in this space for 25 years, and it's wild that this is our first time like going for a walk and talking, and it's something that, my path is my path, and it's, as I've been doing more podcasts and being more out there, building those relationships has been important. In those situations, like this is the part where you may not want to share, but do these people do it because they want to do it? Does a publisher help to pay to fund it? Basically what I'm getting at is like how do you pay for something like that even though you're collaborating?
So often I'm using, I spent most of my advance for this book on the research for the book.
So out of your own pocket,
Out of my
pretty
own
much.
pocket. Yeah, I mean, most authors will use their advance to essentially pay themselves
Right.
while they're doing the work. I'm very lucky to have a lot of other work in and around higher ed. I'm a special advisor at Arizona State
Yeah, that's so
University
cool.
for Michael Crow, who's one of the most innovative presidents
He's
out there.
fascinating.
Fascinating place.
If you ever need someone to help out in any way,
Yeah.
because I've met with, or not met with, I had a wonderful conversation with, he's in the innovation lab,
Yep.
and he's everywhere. What's his name? Sean.
Okay.
Sean Hops.
Oh, Sean Hobson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's great.
Sean's great.
Yeah.
Sean's great. A Pennsylvania native like me.
Yeah.
He grew up in Western Pennsylvania. I grew up in Eastern Pennsylvania.
Yeah. I just want to note for anybody who's watching this, see, another thing I've learned is when you're talking to people, if there's something you're interested in,
Awesome.
you ask them. Like even the fact, like because I was thinking like, man, like Jeff has the coolest relationships with ASU, and it's like, he's built these relationships over a lifetime of working and reporting, and I've kind of been on the outside, but I'd love to do more of those things. But there's this line of like being appropriate versus being was that appropriate the way that I brought that up, you think?
It was totally appropriate. I think that the lines have shifted right now in higher ed. I mean, so I grew up as a journalist.
Right.
I worked at the Chronicle of Higher Education for 16 years. I got to know a lot of presidents, a lot of colleges. And so when I was looking for doing something different, I ended up approaching a number of presidents anyway. Some of them approached me. So I now sit in a very interesting intersection.
Yeah.
Where I'm both on the college side, where I have a lot of relationships. As I said, I work a little bit with ASU, but I'm also on the high school side.
Right.
And advising, not advising, but helping students and families find their right fit.
Right. And that brings up another question that I had is when you're looking at schools and investigating them, and Jeff put together a list of dream schools that reflect a lot of the most important value points that you've been able to. It's very, let's see what's going on here. I'm not a fan of chainsaws, so I like to be, that's a chainsaw. How you doing? Yeah, I try to be like, I don't assume that I'm not gonna get cut. Like I'm just cautious like that. Because it'd be like, how did it happen? Well, I was talking to Jeff, and I assumed that
my hand went
right,
out. It was gone.
I assumed the hand that was holding the camera would be okay, but you never know if someone's wearing headphones. Anyway, getting back to how can you remain objective?
It's a great question.
When you are working with universities and
it's it's a fine line. I feel like I call it as it is. First of all. Second, I am very transparent about the universities that I work with. Or if I go in and sometimes I speak to boards or presidents, and I will say, here's who else I'm working with on occasion. And, and I say I'm a special advisor to ASU. Some people will claim, well, ASU is one of the dream schools. ASU got on that list because of the data.
Right.
Started with the data. Also, the new Dream School list at the back of the book is not a rankings. It's not comprehensive. I was very, forthcoming about that. I also did a little editorializing on that list. That list includes, 60% of that list are public universities. I wanted to make sure that was important to me because 60% of American students go to publics. And I also wanted to make it geographically diverse because most students go to college within 75 to 100 miles of home. And I wanted to make sure there were schools on that list in all regions of the country. So there is a little bit of editorializing on that list anyway.
Right. Of those schools on the list, if you are comfortable just pointing out a couple that stand out.
So there's a couple. Let's start with Pacific University in California, where they have a great connection to their graduate schools that they have at Pacific. We could look at the University of Denver, which I think is sometimes an overlooked institution in that city. St. Olaf, Denison, and Furman University, all of which have strong first-year experiences. I think this is critically important. You know this from the work that you do. The transition from high school to college is much more difficult than I think most families think it's going to be.
Right.
And all of those three places, as well as others, have built up programs that help students transition in and through college, whether that is, small higher ed 101 classes or college 101 classes. They extend orientation throughout the year. They assign you to a mentor. There's all of these programs around the first year experience that I don't think families look enough at. Another one is Dickinson College in Pennsylvania. This is one that Michael Iskowitz helped me discover because when we put our data in, when he put his data in around price to earnings ratio, they give out great merit aid grants, and you have a great return on that investment, in terms of earnings.
So you can check out the list, and I'm sure there are other schools that are like your favorites. I think that's the joy of what you do is you're not looking to be right. You're looking to learn.
And I'll be honest with you, I didn't really want to do a list when I first put this book together, but I get it when I go out and talk about the book, or when I was talking about the idea for the book to parents, they would all say, well, name some names.
Right.
Put the data to work.
Right.
So that's why we ended up putting together this list, but I'm very specific in setting up the list and framing the list to say, these are examples. This is a starting point. It's not meant as a end-all be-all. It's not meant as a ranking. It's not meant to be comprehensive. There could be hundreds of dream schools. These give you ideas of places you may look at, or places that are like it that you should also look at.
We'll cross the street and then we'll turn around because we actually started a little bit later.
Okay.
This is really...
I don't have to be there exactly at 3, but sometime around.
Okay.
3.
This is really... This is nice. You're enjoying yourself.
This is gorgeous.
This is nice. See, I don't think this is terrible for you.
No.
You're right. This is nice because you do a lot of these, man. Like, I get so emotionally drained. Like, you really do seem like you have a lot of energy.
Yeah,
and
I might do 3 or 4 events a day or media hits.
yeah.
By the end of the day, though, I'm ready to spend some time by myself. So if I'm in the city and I'm staying overnight,
right.
people say, "Hey, let's grab dinner." I'll be like, "Yeah." I'll go and sit somewhere and have a nice dinner and read a book.
Does your publisher, do they book your tour?
No, they book some of it, but I have an assistant, an executive assistant who's also my speaking coordinator, who has done a lot of this work. Because
we have a similar business structure, and there's certain schools that you'll speak at based on when you have something new to share. Yep. And then you reach out and they get excited, and it's great. And you do a fantastic job. And anybody who is lucky enough to live in a community where Jeff is going to be hosting an event, you get to ask questions. It's a real community feel, and parents come out. And this is the big question is, it is crystal clear. Like, the data doesn't lie, that where you go is not as important as what you do, right? Like,
it's been crystal clear for a long time.
Crystal clear. So you come into this sharing something that in 2013, we know with the Gallup Purdue Index, and I share a lot of that. I use that as kind of my starting point for success, because I think parents don't really know and students don't know where to start when it comes to defining success. Well, we know without question, and Frank Bruni's book dives into this. So why is there still so much stress and anxiety when it comes to this whole college admissions process?
Because we really do worry about making the wrong decision. And there's nothing wrong with applying to and hopefully getting into the most selective top-ranked schools. No one's going to say you were wrong for applying to Duke or Harvard or Stanford or Williams or Amherst. But when you say to somebody, my kid is applying to Ithaca College, where I went as an undergrad, because they have a great music program and they want to be a musician, or they want to go into musical theater, also a great program at Ithaca, people are like, but Ithaca accepts 60-70% of students, or whatever it is, something around that area. And we tend to equate quality with selectivity, when it really is a headcount measure. That's all it is. It's a measure of how many students are applying and how many students get in, and how many spots they really have in the freshman class. And so I think that it takes more courage to look beyond the beaten path,
right?
And look at those schools that are deeper in the rankings. And why are parents afraid of that? So they're afraid of making the wrong decision, and there is a lot of social pressure. So we did a survey for the book, 3,000 plus parents, and we asked them, how important is prestige to you as a parent? 16% said very important to me. We asked them, how important is it? This is the work that John did with me. How important is it that for your kid? 28% said it was very important to their kid, prestige in admissions. Then we said, how important is it to people in your community? Or here we are in the North Shore of Chicago, Evanston, and going up the shores of the lake. And these are communities where you go to school seems to matter, especially in we're here in the shadow of Northwestern University. And so when we asked parents, how about people in your community? 62% said prestige was incredibly important to people in their community. And that says to me, and I hear this from parents all the time, I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to be seen. Some of it is embarrassment. You don't want to go to a cocktail party or show up at school and say my kid applied to these 5 schools or is going this school that you think is less selective. And I think there's this parental pressure to feel like you don't want to ruin your kid. And what I want to do is give parents permission to think more broadly.
Yeah.
That you're not going to ruin your kid, that in fact the outcomes, the the mentors that they're going to have, the classes they're going to take, the experience overall might actually be better. And not
Right.
only do I bring the data in Dream School, but we bring stories of successful students
Yeah.
who have done it.
I think the biggest challenge is starting with the question, how do you define success? This is what I've been doing now when I'm talking to students and parents. And there's two success stories because, I have been hitting my head against anything I can find for the past 20 years because I know the majority of students who get to college are going to struggle in some way, whether it's social, emotional, physical, financial, academic. I use the ACHA, NCHA data, and we know this. So it is a fact. Like, we know this, and we also know, and if any of this is contrary to what you've seen, or so we know this.
I mean, I struggled. I talked about this in the chapter in Dream School about how I
love
struggled
that.
first
Yeah.
semester of college. I was miserable.
Right.
And I thought maybe I would have to call my parents and say, this is not for me, or I have
Right.
to transfer. And I didn't want to do that because I had people around me who eventually helped me. I talk about this in the book, Ira Brous, who was my macroeconomics professor. I didn't go to a high school with macroeconomics. And I remember getting my first test back, wasn't great. And, these kids, I overheard these kids in class talking about how this was a concept they covered in AP macro in high school. And
It's not the worst, it's review, right?
Like, I didn't have that. Like, we barely had like a dozen AP classes, even if we had that. And I remember Ira, who just passed away, who was my macroeconomics professor. He said, Jeff, why don't you come by office hours and we'll talk? And that simple request to me, I didn't know anything about office hours, and I did. And we had a great conversation. He helped me figure out how to study for the tests that were to come. But what that did, Harlan, more than anything, was to say, it's okay. It's okay to go see a professor. And then later on, things got better, and I was asked to stay for the summer after my freshman year at Ithaca to be news editor of the summer newspaper. The student newspaper was going to publish during the summer, but it wouldn't pay me enough, and I needed to make money for college because my father was a high school teacher. My mother didn't go to college, so I needed to work. And I was talking to the advisor to the student newspaper, Paul Heaton, and he said, wait a second, I need to make a call. So he calls up head of student affairs, head of orientation, summer orientation, Sharon Policello, and he says, do you have any office jobs out there for the summer? And she said, send them up.
Yeah.
Let me interview.
Yeah.
I interviewed with her and I got a second summer job that summer. And it, again, changed my life because one of the things that summer did for me was to meet students who were in different majors and did different things from what I was accustomed to at that point.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, it's like people matter. Not only peers and friends, but mentors. And I think one of the things as I go to these high schools, most students think, well, college is going to be like high school. The teachers are there to teach. The adults are there to make sure you're successful. Well, many professors are not there to teach necessarily, or at least that's not their first job. Their first job is to do research or publish books or to do other things or work with graduate students.
Right.
And I think that students need to know, how do you take advantage? How do you hook into these experiences in college so that you're not a spectator to that sport?
Yeah. It's, I got chills when you were talking about, the people who helped you. And in the book, it's really wonderful how you share that. And it stood out that your instructor, you weren't doing well. It wasn't like he wanted to meet the star student. Right. He's like, wow, you're brilliant. I know someone in government that would love to tap into your brain for, some sort of economic modeling. It was like, he saw that. And what I find is students, two big challenges. And this is where I it's so hard for me because everyone focuses on getting in and they focus on the win, but it's when you're there, do you have access to professors? And I know that you shared a story in the book about this. Or at least it was the student who was they weren't sure how much access they would have to their professors, because when you go to a lot of highly selective schools, sometimes you don't have as much access to professors, or large schools, right?
Right.
So this is fascinating. I have a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old. My 17-year-old is a musician, and we have been going to schools, and he's been getting lessons from different teachers.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And he's a kid who, like, all my kids do this, because I don't want anyone to think like, I don't want my kids to be like, I'm favoring one kid. They're so curious. They have uninhibited curiosity. You know, the idea that learning something is more important than what someone thinks, and it drives their curiosity and their search. But the thing about music is you need to meet your professors. Like, that's part of it. You meet them, and then based on the professors and the people in the different communities, that then gives you a better sense of if that's going to be the right fit. I mean, you still have to go through the process and get in, and hopefully you get in, and then there's all the different layers, so you can't fall in love with anything. But it's that reverse engineering, and I was telling my wife and son, I'm like, this should be how it is for all students of all majors.
Well, you should get to, it's almost like you get to test drive a car. I always think you should be able to own a car for a week before you have to really return it.
I think
right?
CarMax gives you like 72 hours.
I would also like to live
or something like that.
Like, if I'm buying a house, I would like to live in a house for a week.
Yeah.
Before I decide to buy it.
How about marriage? You should have a marriage for 6 months. Nah, that's not. We didn't.
No, we're not
we
going
are
there.
totally
We're not
joking.
going there.
No, I love my marriage, and we both do. You're like, those are red flags when two guys are like, "Oh, I love." No, I really do.
I should do the same thing with kids, right? Like,
right, you get trials.
Anyway,
back on track. Sorry. Okay.
I am amazed at these parents who tell me, "Oh, we're going on these tours, and we're gonna be away for 3 days, and we're gonna do 12 campuses." And like 3 days, I'm like, "What are you gonna see?
Yeah.
What are you really going to see when you take those tours?" And I get it. Tours are expensive. You can't take a lot of time off. You know, many students never even get to tour campuses because of the expense.
Yeah.
But when you go, spend time there, and spend time off the official tour. Don't just talk to the tour guide. Don't just see what they're going to show you on the tour. Really spend time on campus. Try to talk to other undergraduates. See if you could meet up with a faculty member, especially in the department that you're thinking about majoring in. Ask. I know I've suggested this many times, and I'm sure when I suggest it here again, I'll have an admissions dean call me. Please don't suggest that they go to try to sit in on a class. Difficult at some places, I get it, but see if you could sit in on a class. Notice what's happening around campus, right? We're walking around Evanston here. If we were walking on campus, I would be looking at, and I did this yesterday at Northwestern when I was walking, are students talking to each other?
Yeah.
Are they interacting? Are they laughing? Or are they just on their phones? What are they, when they walk into buildings, are they talking to professors that they might see? Are they picking up the student newspaper? I always love picking up the student newspaper. It's harder to do that now. Not often in print anymore, but this is great.
Right.
If you never get to a campus, like, try to understand the vibe of a campus. Eat in the dining hall or eat somewhere on campus. You can't do that if you are essentially doing a drive-by. In and out.
Right, and I think that there are so many students who don't know people, and they're too afraid to reach out to people, or they don't have the skills to know that if you're following a social media account of a school, and one of the rules that I advocate for students who are exploring schools is to identify 3 places on any campus where you're going to apply. 3 places where you sweat, play, pray, live, learn, lead, love, and work. Okay. Identify those 3 places. Make sure at least 1 or 2 are places where you're welcome and included simply because you show up. Oh. And then try to find people in those places. Talk to students who are seniors, who are first-year students. And if you reach out to them on social media, most of them are like pretty cool. Yeah. Like, it's amazing because they're just the student in the future. But so many students
don't want to do it. They're afraid.
They're
and
afraid.
Parents are afraid too because they don't want to embarrass their kid.
They're afraid. So when it comes to this fear of investigating and doing the things you need to do. Do you think it's that students don't know? Do you think it's that they're too afraid? Like, where do you think the problem is?
So I think the problem is we do not approach the college search as a consumer good that we're buying. And colleges know this. They pull at the heartstrings. Many parents who are looking at colleges today, a decent amount of them went to college themselves. College was a transformative experience in their life, and they're transferring that down to their kids. And so it's an emotional experience. It's where maybe it's where I met my spouse. I met my best friends. I figured out what I wanted to do in life. It was that transformative experience, and colleges know this, so they pull at the heartstrings. Rather, I want to, and I think that parents should approach this as I'm buying a car, I'm buying a house.
Yeah.
And would you, for example, when you toured a house that you were buying, would you only go to 3 rooms and skip other 5? When you're doing an open house or you have to inspect it, you're going to really look everywhere. And I think the same thing is true at colleges and universities, is spend time there, ask these questions. There's nothing wrong with it. And there's a little social pressure here, because when I've been on tours, you've been on tours, if no one else is asking questions, you feel like, well, maybe I shouldn't ask questions.
Right. It's really hard, and I think students and parents are set up to fail. And one of the things that I was driving out was talking about how I hit my head on things. I don't really hit my head on things. Is that I know that so many students are going to struggle, and I know parents are going to struggle. I did a video today saying, if you're a parent who wants your kid to get more involved, wants them to talk to their instructors, wants them to go to a spiritual event, wants them to do things that are going to help them to be more successful, and they're not, to just give them time, because it's like warp speed, social, emotional, physical, financial, and now it's like the intensity of the academics and students who have no practice. This is another thing, Jeff, that I was talking to an admissions director, and I was at a highly selective school, and I was saying, you should have like 10% of your population that you let in at like 3.0, and have it be your 3.0 group who are great at struggling. Yeah. They're great at bouncing back, so they show that they know how to bounce back, and then they're the ones who are on campus who can become friends with the high achievers who are perfectionists, who don't know how to fail, so that they can influence them. Right, they influence them. But when you have a system that's designed to be perfect, where you don't get to practice working through problems, when you're in a situation where for the first time you're not getting the grade you're used to getting, you don't have the emotional stamina or the social skills to be able to work through it, because you're at this elite school and you're getting a D. I talked to a student the other day who's so humiliated, and I was like, I boosted him up. I stopped. I was recording a video. I stopped it. He was a first-year student, and I could tell he was upset. And I was like, dude, this is great, man. I'm like, I don't care about views. I go, this is great, because now you have a problem, and when you have a problem, it gives you a reason to talk to people. Right. But that's not how it's designed in high school.
No, because so much of high school is designed to get into college.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do to get into college? I'm often asked at events, what else does, a lot of parents, some students show up, what else do I have to do? What other course do I have to take?
Right.
Another AP course? Do I have to take another activity? Do I have to do another sport? Oh, by the way, do I have to save the world at the same time? And I say to them, well, what do you want to do?
Right.
And they give me kind of a blank look sometimes.
Right.
What do you mean? What do I want to do? This is not about what I want. It's about what a college wants.
Right.
And that's not true, because your application to, especially many of these highly selective places, going to land on an admissions officer's desk on a Wednesday in December if it's early decision, or in January if it's regular decision. They're going to open it up, and in 5, 7, 10 minutes, they are going to make a decision. And when they make that decision, that decision is going to land back at the students, in the portal when they open it up, and they're going to be denied, and they'll be upset. Everyone's going to be upset when they're denied. But often then when they're denied, a student will say to me, what did I do this for? What did I do
What's
all
the
these
point?
things in high school? What was the point of high school? And if the point of high school is to get into college, we have lost the reason for high school. Especially at a moment in time, I have 2 teenagers at home. They're changing by the moment.
Right.
Every week, every month, they're growing. Right. And if the point of high school is to get into college, we've really lost that momentum. And so to me, if you want to take 5 more AP classes and you want to join 2 more sports for the challenge of it, to discover new things, great. But if you're doing it for college, for some anonymous admissions officer on the other side of the desk, who might love you, by the way, but they have 10 other applicants just like you and they have 1 seat left. Those are the odds.
Right. And it's the idea that you're going to be okay no matter what. And what Dream School does is it reinforces this idea that you are going to be okay. That you are going to be okay because you have options, whether it's taking a gap year. I love gap years.
I love gap years too.
You know,
love gap years.
Why do you love gap years?
So I wrote about them in There's Life After College. And I love gap years because life is long. You're going to be working for the rest of your life. There's no reason to rush off to college, especially if you're not sure and you don't know what you want to do, or you're just not ready. And especially true for boys. Not probably ready. Now, you can't have an unstructured gap year. I think what often happens is when I suggest this to parents, they're afraid of literally falling, there's kids falling into that gap of the year and never going to college. And so I often say there should be 3 pieces to a gap year. 1, don't get off the academic treadmill altogether. Take a class. The great thing about online education now is you can find often free classes. Just keep those academic muscles going. Second, have some sort of structure to the program. Do something, whether that's travel or work. Don't just say, well, I'm just going to take time off. Have some sort of structure to your days, to your weeks. Doesn't have to be an official program. You don't have to go overseas or have to do full-time work, but you want to do something like that. And then third, and this is probably the most important, this is the piece that I think is often lost, is try to find a mentor. Because one of the things that's going to happen in that space between high school and college is you won't have a lot of adults around you, except for your parents. And so find a mentor who you could check in with on a regular basis during that year, just to talk about what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Right. And it doesn't even have to be someone who's doing exactly what you want to do or something even related to what you want to do. It could be the way they do things. It could be the way they interact with people at work or just everyday life. And I think that is, it's those people who change lives. So Jeff, when it comes to careers, and I know that career paths are so unpredictable right now. It's amazing. Are you doing stuff with AI?
I am. I'm working. Do I work with AI right
now?
Tell
me what you're doing with AI.
So I just got asked by this from a group of seniors who were skeptical whether I should use AI.
Right.
So I use AI on a couple things. Personally, I use it when we plan vacations. I always say, what should I do? I have 5 days here. Let's plan a vacation. But that's a little bit personal. But professionally, I often use it to get through a lot of academic studies in a short amount of time, especially if there might be 30 or 40 academic studies on a subject. For example, for Dream School, one of the things I looked at were the employment outcomes of students at highly selective elite colleges versus everyone else. That has been studied a lot of times by many economists out there. And I wanted to get a sense of what are the studies I really should take a deeper dive on. I didn't, to be honest with you, didn't have time. And I wasn't quite sure it was worth my time to read 30 or 40 studies to research that chapter. And so I used AI to try to summarize most of those studies and what are the ones that would get at some of the questions that I had.
Right.
So that's how I used it there. I often use it if I'm just struggling with how to finish a paragraph or what else should I include in this paragraph. I'll ask it for a couple of different prompts to help me, or if I'm trying to explain something and I want to do it in an easier to understand way, so I use it to help self-edit a little bit. And then if I'm trying to frame a chapter or a story that I'm working on, I will ask it a number of prompts about that. So it is a helper. It's a I used to work at the Chronicle of Higher Education. I had a staff in the newsroom of 50, 60 people that I could bounce ideas off of.
Right.
I don't have that anymore.
Right.
I work by myself most of the time. And so it is that other reporter, it's that other editor that I could bounce on.
Right. Right. How do you know how to filter through the truth when you're gathering data?
You mean with AI?
Yeah, with AI, because I think it can be tricky.
Yeah, and I mean the good thing is I've And it can be very tricky if it's an area you don't know well.
Right.
And your BS detector is not high enough
Right.
on that, right? And I see that. So, I will, because I've covered higher ed for more than 25 years, there's just stuff I know.
Yeah.
And if something just seems off, I will go back and check it. But it is, and I find stuff wrong almost every single time I use it.
That's the thing. I do too.
I do too, and it's really worrisome because if I'm using it for stuff I don't know, I'm like, wait a second, you just assumed that, and I will write it back in a prompt. I'm like, that's not right. You just assumed that.
Well,
I never said that, or that was never said in that study.
Yeah.
So it is a dangerous thing, especially when. And again, I didn't use it to summarize studies I ended up using. I used it to summarize studies for those that I want to look more closely at.
Right.
Which I would then go and read myself.
But even if you did use it for a summary of a study that you wanted to use or data you wanted to use, and you verify that data and use it as a way to kind of put jet fuel under your research, you have so many years of expertise. So it's like
What if I didn't?
Right, like you could fly a 747. It's like being a pilot and someone who's never flown a plane getting behind getting in the cockpit and having AI tell them it's a different experience. So when you are looking at the college to career pipeline, are there any things that stand out that if you were a 19-year-old who is starting college, you would focus on to help give yourself the best chance of
So I think that we have over the last 10 years really focused on professional degrees and going deep in a particular sector. So STEM, healthcare, health professions, computer science, business, all of those degrees have become incredibly popular, all at the expense, unfortunately, of the liberal arts. And one thing that I think is changing now is that I've done a lot of work with Matt Singelman at the Burning Glass Institute. One of the things I've learned from him is that it is a both and. In other words, the history major who knows how to do data visualization is incredibly strong. The marketing major who knows data analytics, incredibly strong. So it's not it's the a STEM major who knows the Adobe suite, able to do stuff that you're doing right now.
Right.
You're going to edit this video.
Yeah.
I assume.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah. I'll probably only edit a couple things.
Okay.
But I try to keep it like the whole thing, even meeting you and seeing you, because I want authenticity to be the thing, because there's so few things that are authentic nowadays.
So I think it goes back to this ability, though, to think, problem solve, and navigate the ambiguity that we live in. At the same time, very specific things. And so my feeling is if I'm giving advice to a 19-year-old, it's...
Or your kids.
My own
kids.
You
got teenagers.
I want them to be able to pivot much more easily than I had to.
Right.
So I was a journalist for 16, 17 years before I had to pivot to become an author, to move into higher ed.
That's a big change. And you were the editor-in-chief, was it the Chronicle?
I had specific skills.
Right.
I was able to use.
Right.
And that's the thing that does worry me about the job market right now, is the skills that I built in the very early days after college. I was a newspaper reporter in Arizona, in North Carolina. And the time that I spent sitting next to veteran reporters and learning from them, that is what I fear is lost now. Not only with the rise of remote work, but early career jobs as well.
Right, so really being around human beings, connecting with them, and you can use technology as ways to explore and try to solve problems, but that connection point. In terms of your career, what do you think has been the most important part of you being able to navigate and get to where you are today?
The time, I thought that was going to be my thing. No, not yet. Coming up there. It's happening.
I love that you're pointing it out. It's great.
I want to show you that.
I believe you. I believe you.
There it is.
There it is. Dream School.
Dream
School.
School.
This person's walking across the street.
For you.
Well, now we're...
Except they have the wrong time on there. It starts at 6:30.
Oh, what time does it say?
It says 7 o'clock.
Oh, maybe. I had that happen. Well, I shouldn't even share the story. I had it happen. I'll tell 3 seconds.
Yeah.
I double booked myself on a date. and I was supposed to be in Arizona, and I was supposed to be in Chicago on the same day. And I learned about it like a week, I realized it a week and a half early. And I have an assistant, and it was, everything worked out. That's another thing. It always works out.
Well, let me just tell you a funny story about timing, and then I'll get back to your question. I was at NACAC in Houston.
Yeah.
I think this was like 3 years ago. And my phone didn't translate the time difference right, Eastern to Central.
Yeah.
And I was sitting at lunch with Allison Slater-Tate. I don't know if you know Allison.
She's the best.
She's great.
Oh, she's
we were
fantastic.
having lunch, and John Beckenstedt, who you probably also know, is tweeting at the session I was supposed to be on the panel for.
Oh, no.
And saying a session is not a session without Jeff Selingo.
Oh, no.
And it was kind of embarrassing. I had to run. I made it, but it was great. But there you are. I am telling you a failure that I had.
Yeah.
Now, most people will say, but Jeff, you should never tell that story, right? Because it
Right.
doesn't show you in a good light. Didn't show
Right.
me in a good light. But we all make mistakes. And I owned it. I walked
Yeah.
into that room. I said, sorry, I'm late. Here's
Yeah.
what happened.
People are
This is what it
forgiving.
is. People are forgiving.
Yeah,
Right?
It's funny because even professor, I do this whole thing of like, that a professor who is so inflexible and sticks to the rules. You know, life is filled with people who are understanding and accommodating, and you know, there are some professors who are empathetic and understanding, and those who say it's this way because that's the real world. But I find the real world, if you're associating with like, you know, pretty much
Anybody.
good people,
Yeah.
they're pretty forgiving.
And here's the thing. From the moment that you make a mistake, own up to it.
Yeah.
I had an issue with an intern at the Chronicle once who tried to like wiggle his way out of something, and it kind of came back to bite him later on. And
Right.
I had to fire him. And I said to him, you should have owned up to it from the moment I asked you about it.
Right.
Like, that's the thing. Like, own up
Right.
to your
Own it.
mistakes. Own it.
Yeah.
It's fine. We all make mistakes.
So
anyway, you asked me a question. Now I forgot what it was.
you know, I want to be respectful of your time.
Yeah.
It's 3:02. Do we have like?
Yeah, we have a couple more.
3 more.
minutes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here, let's just walk to the
Yeah.
end of the street because I like walking. It's so
Yeah.
nice. I wanted to know how you were able to get here because you were working for a large company.
Yep.
You also have these really wonderful relationships with thought leaders. You are invited to be on certain panels. You're self-employed. You're a publisher. You're really an entrepreneur. And it's not what you set out to do. And I don't know if that's how you even think of yourself.
Yeah.
But what are, and it could be a few things that you think are really so important to you being able to persevere.
So one is hard work. I'll never forget Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, graduated from Ithaca College, came to speak to Ithaca when I was an undergraduate there. And he said, never underestimate the power of just working harder than everyone else. You may not be the smartest person in the room, and
Yeah.
I'm definitely not the smartest person in the room, but just, be tenacious and work hard. Tenacity, and never giving up. And that's true of this book. I wanted to get an excerpt in the New Yorker, for example, and
Yeah.
it ended up working because I just kept asking. I kept
Really?
saying, well, what if we do this angle instead or that angle? So the tenacity piece.
That's
of it.
funny. I have to tell you, as an observer, and I know you're sharing
Yeah.
your answer, I saw the article in the New Yorker, and I just thought, oh yeah, Selingo's in the New Yorker. Like, people just love Jeff,
No,
and he
it's-
wants to be in the New
it's
Yorker.
work.
He's in the New
Yeah,
Yorker.
you just have to keep working.
It's
at it.
so funny.
To my detriment sometimes, there's the give and take mentality. I take from people, but I also try to give.
Yeah.
And I think this is an example of it, right? Like, I am more than willing to, you've been very helpful to me, and I'm willing to be helpful to you, walking around for an hour. And I feel like there is a little bit of that. Often people have said no to me multiple times, and then a year later they'll come ask for a favor, and I sometimes remember that, but I also say, well, whatever, I'll just do it.
Yeah.
Because that's the way I think we need to be. We need to be more giving
Yeah.
of our talents, but also of our help. Anytime somebody calls me to ask me how to write a book, how to get into speaking,
Yeah.
how to do a lot of the things I've been incredibly lucky, and I think that's a key word here, lucky to do.
Yeah.
I am more than willing to try to share whatever I can.
Right. So being generous.
So
and,
being generous. The skills, though, I think going back to what you learn in college and high school,
yeah.
I was a journalism major in college. a broadcast journalism major. Worked also for the print newspaper. Print newspapers basically don't exist anymore.
Right.
Broadcast journalism, we were, cutting tape and reel to reels. You don't do that anymore.
Right.
But is the underlying activities, working on deadline, collaborating, asking questions, writing, constantly writing and owning up to your mistakes. All those skill sets, the critical thinking skills of research and research methods, the research methods course, the ethics course.
Right.
All of those things have helped me
Right.
do what I've been able to do the last 10 years.
And they were fueled, is it accurate to say, by curiosity and an interest in the things that you were doing?
Always. And also, I wanted to become a journalist because, to be honest with you, I probably have a little bit of ADHD in me. Like, I want to do something different every day, and journalism offers you that opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm also incredibly curious, and I want to ask questions, and being a journalist gives you permission to ask questions.
Right.
It's kind of nice.
That's your role.
Yeah.
All right, the last thing I'm going to mention to you is, so I have this program called Best First Year, and you might have seen me talk about it. It's for high school and college parents and students, and it really is a solution to so many of the problems that so many families face once they're there. And it starts in high school, and it continues through college, and then the connection point is this career piece using the whole win-or-learn mindset and framework. And I don't know if you've seen any of the Win-or-Learn book, but I'm obsessed with rejection and how it's connected to the ability to be curious, to go after what you want, to connect with the people and the places who are doing the things you want to do. And it really starts with that part of, you talk a lot about high school being broken, and it's that it's not it doesn't nurture curiosity, it nurtures the win more so. And the Best First Year program I want to share with you, and if it's something that could be a resource, and the other thing is I know it works. I've seen it work. It changes lives. The challenge is parents are so focused and students are focused on getting in.
They don't think about what's next.
Right. So the one of the reasons I'm writing the job book, which is like, it hit me over the head. I'm like, why didn't I do this? Because parents they really appreciate my advice. And they're like, hey, what advice do you have for this next piece? And I was like, well, of course, but success is getting in, and success is getting out and getting a job. In their minds, but real success, I think, is what happens in between. And that's the part that people don't understand and doesn't have as high level of need. So it's hard to sell.
Well, it is hard to sell. I will tell you, I wrote a book, There Was Life After College, kind of talking about what you needed to do while you were in school. It was my second book. It never sold very well.
It's brutal.
And when I went out to talk about it, parents would say, oh, this is all fine and good, but how do you get in? And I'm like, it's not about getting in. And obviously the outcomes matter.
Yeah.
But those 4 years are where you're going to develop those relationships for life. When people talk about college, their college experience, they talk about the people. People that made the difference. And when you're rushing through college to get to the other side, or when you see college as just a series of hoops that you're going to jump through, you miss those human connections, whether it's with adults, whether it's with coaches, advisors, professors. Those matter the most in success after life.
Right. The ROI on relationships is immeasurable, and that's the part that sometimes is missed when it comes to this calculations. All right, you got to go. This has been wonderful.
This is wonderful.
If there's anything else, is there anything else you wanted to share before
Well, we talked about relationships, the ROI on relationships, which I believe can be found at colleges and universities deeper in the rankings because there's less of a shark mentality. At these places where, highly ranked colleges, there's a lot more competition between students. I love your idea. What were you calling it? Like we need to take more 3.0 kids?
The 3.0 and seed them
seed them.
Right.
Because what I think that would do is give students not only at the very top of the class the ability to fail, but they would see that the world is made up of a broad range of students who, by the way, I will argue those 3.0 kids, because I was one of them.
Me too.
Right?
Two 3.0 kids.
Will come and rule the world someday.
Right.
And you need to learn how to work with them.
Right. Because they're great at coming back, and they get things wrong.
They have more grit.
So we'll continue this. All right. This will be our last shot here. This has been fun. Did you enjoy this?
This was fantastic.
I really appreciate it.
How many steps did I get in?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we walked 2.47 miles.
2.47 miles.
That's fantastic.
I'm going to link to all of the resources I mentioned, the book, and anything else that Jeff wants to communicate. And I appreciate your generosity. And man, I'm just so excited. I'm like so excited to I know Jeff now. We know each other. All right. Thanks.